Another episode of The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors come to talk about how they write their books and how they publish their books and how they market their books. You can find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page called The Writer's Dream. And if you want to be on the show or you have a question about the show, please message me through the Facebook page, The Writer's Dream. You can also see us on YouTube. You would look for my channel. My name is Linda Maria Frank. I am the author of Annie Tillery Mysteries, but if you search my name, my picture will come up. Click on the picture and all of the interviews will come up. The interviews are interesting to people who like to read and who like to write and who need tips about their writing, publishing, and marketing, and also if you're interested in local talent, because that's basically what we have is local Long Island talent. You can also find the show on ltv-eh.org, video on demand, search for The Writer's Dream, and the shows will come up. So we hope to hear from you, and we have a very interesting guest today. Her name is Debbie DeLouise. She is a librarian at Hicksville Library, which is a wonderful entree into the career of writing. She is the author of, among other things, Cobble Cove Mysteries. So welcome, Debbie. It's nice to have you here. You are a prolific writer. I looked for you on Amazon, and I got pages and pages and pages. And I see that you write short stories, and that you have an award-winning short story, The Path to Rainbow Bridge. You got a certificate of excellence from the Cat Writers Association. Your Cozy Mysteries are a series, a very successful series. A Stone's Throw is the first one.
That's correct.
And you have just recently released the latest one, which is?
My recent release is Cloudy Rainbow.
Okay, so that's not part of...
That's not part of the series.
What's the most recent?
Written in Stone.
Written
but
in Stone.
I have a fourth coming out soon.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Which is in the works.
I think that's actually the best part of writing is when you're just about to release a book. That's the most exciting.
Yes,
and then it's there and you say, it's like when you have a baby. You have the baby and there it is and it's cute and everybody takes this picture, you take it home, and then what do you do with it? It cries.
Well, that's the hard part.
Yeah, it does a lot of things that, I don't know about that.
And it doesn't get easier. I have a 13-year-old daughter, so it doesn't get...
Yeah. Oh, but it will get easier from there, because I taught school, I taught middle school and high school for a long time. Usually girls peak at 13 and get better after that. So let's hope. So before we get into talking about your books, if you had one sentence to tell me, how would you describe your writing style, your authorship, whatever you want to call it? Who are you as a writer?
I enjoy writing mysteries. I also enjoy reading mysteries. So that's basically why I write them, because I enjoy reading them. Mm-hmm. But I also like to dabble in other genres. I've done romance, I've done with my short stories, I've done science fiction, I've done fantasy, but I always come back to mysteries.
What is it about a mystery?
I work as a librarian, as you know, and patrons really take out the mysteries. The two, the biggest genres are mystery and romance. But I like to combine the two. Mm-hmm. My mysteries have romance in them. But patrons seem to like them, and other readers and myself, I like them, because it always keeps you guessing. Like, I always want to know who done it, and I always want to be surprised. And I enjoy writers who can do that, and I try to do that. I try to feature a twist in my book so that you might think it's one person who's doing it, and it turns out to be someone else.
The red herring, right?
Yes.
You always have to put red herrings, and you always have to telegraph to your reader who the real
Right.
who the real culprit
But you
is.
can't make, yeah.
Yeah, but you can't do
make
it, obviously.
You can't make it too difficult either.
No,
because you
no.
don't want readers to say, oh, how could that possibly be?
Exactly. That's the key
Yeah.
to writing a successful mystery, is that, oh, I should have seen that. Like, I can remember seeing that movie. I
Or
see
now
dead,
it makes sense.
Yeah, I see dead people, and all through the whole movie, you don't realize the man is dead. And then at the end, you realize that the kid who could see dead people is talking to a dead person.
Right.
And then you look back and you say, of course, I should have seen that. I should have seen that.
I watched the show Medium. We enjoy that series, and she can see dead people. She has dreams about murders that are going to take place. But that's one of the things that happens. You don't know if she's talking to a real person or a dead person.
That's like that scene in, I forget, in Ghost, that movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg.
Right.
She's a medium and she's got like a crowd in the room and you don't know who's who's here and who's not here. Yes, and that's of course an interesting part of paranormal, and paranormal can be part of a mystery, which I think that's what you've done.
But my Cloudy Rainbow has paranormal elements.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about Cloudy Rainbow in a minute or two. But I think also mysteries are appeals to that part of your brain that likes to solve things. And most mystery writers, the successful ones, clean it all up at the end, right? It all comes and justice is done. And in 3 of my books, I let the bad guy get away, though. I have to do something about that. I think that's the next book. I have to do something about that. And I also find that when I taught forensic science, and that's the other part of mysteries, is people are into that dark side of human nature. They find it fascinating. And I wonder sometimes, why do you think that is, that we find that fascinating?
Well, you know, in real life, there's darkness, there's murders, there's things, but we want to be able to maybe explore it without being afraid. You know what I mean? You know it's fictional, so you know there's going to be either a happy ending or some sort of solution. But maybe in real life, there's things we can't solve, and maybe reading a book like that, you know that there's going to be an ending, there's going to be a tie-up, and you can feel safer. But you also want to be scared a little bit,
Yes.
but you don't want to be too scared.
Yes, I can remember reading certain books with my back
It's like
against
a thrill. It's like
with
going
my
on a
back
roller
against
coaster.
the wall, facing the door.
It's like why
because I was so
people in
scared.
amusement parks, they like roller coasters, or why people go, there's different reasons. They go on thrill rides.
I
It's the
think it
same
also
type of
gives
thing.
people, when they read a book that has, you know, serial killers and these very dark things, gives them a sense of control, because they know that in this book, that person is going to be caught, or at least they hope they are. Except in some books, they go on to the next book.
Well, right.
If you have a series. So tell me, what is a cozy?
Cozy mysteries they're clean reads, basically.
What do you mean by that?
They usually feature a small town, and sometimes they have recipes or different foods in them. They take place in different settings, but usually it's a small town. Sometimes it's a library, like I have a library in my Cobble Cove books, and I have a cat. Usually there are pets. I have a cat also. I have a dog in those mysteries. But cozy, clean mysteries, or they have very little violence. They have murders, but they're not gory murders, and they're really not explicit. There's not a lot of bad language. There's not if there are sex scenes, they're behind doors. So nothing is really explicit. But they're nice stories, something like a Hallmark movie. People enjoy them. I find, different age ranges, but I do find sometimes older people enjoy them more. But, everyone has their own taste, but they're just nice stories.
They are the opposite of like true crime and police detective stories and stuff like that.
Like I said, they have murders in them, and they're all bad people, but the characters have quirks. They usually have quirky characters.
So when you're writing a cozy, your guidelines are pretty much the same guidelines that I have to follow in writing for young readers. No explicit sex, no bad language, and even though people are being murdered and whatnot, you never go into the details of it, except to
much.
talk maybe about evidence.
Right.
And that's,
Well,
but that's,
right.
yeah, because there are a lot of genres within the mystery genre.
Oh, yes, there are. quite a
And
few.
as a librarian, of course, you deal with that all the time. So, so why don't you describe some of your books?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
You can, if you want to, you can do, the series, and then you can go into your latest release, which I would really like to hear about.
Okay, I think that would be good. Well, the Cobble Cove Mysteries, the series started with A Stone's Throw. And the way the story came about was my very first book I had self-published, which I'll get back to. That's Cloudy Rainbow. But that was not a mystery. And I had always been an avid reader of mysteries, cozy. I love cats, so I always enjoyed reading the cozy mysteries and the ones that featured cats. But the way A Stone's Throw came about, it had been years since I wrote my first novel, which was self-published, but I didn't have a lot of experience when I wrote it, and I pretty much wrote it for myself, although it was in my library and it was, people purchased it. But basically, I gave up at that point. I didn't want to write it, felt I couldn't write anymore. I'd been writing a long time. I wrote short stories, as you said. I wrote articles in pet magazines, but I was coming to a point in my life where I was working full-time. I had a young daughter. I really didn't have a lot of time to write. But a patron at my library where I work kept saying to me, when are you going to publish your next book? And I said, well, right now I really don't have the time. And she said, well, you have to find the time. And she wasn't rude. She was very nice. She just wanted to motivate me. And every time she would come to me and say, have you started the new book? And I would say, no, I really haven't. And she would say, well, what's keeping you back? You're a good writer. I loved your book. I'd love to read another. Well, time went on, and I thought to myself, well, maybe I could start writing something. I missed writing, actually. But I usually wrote for myself. Publishing is a different story. And what I did was I started writing this. I came up with this idea for my book, for a mystery. And at that time, I didn't see it as a cozy mystery. I saw it as romantic suspense. But as I wrote it, it followed the guidelines of a cozy. I said it first, the main character is a librarian like myself, which was helpful.
Sure.
Because I knew how to write about libraries.
Well, they say write what you know.
And she travels upstate. She comes from Long Island, and of course, I come from Long Island. And she travels upstate, and I created this fictional small town called Cobble Cove. And she travels there after her husband is killed in a mysterious accident. And she wants to know, she doesn't know a lot about his family, and he never revealed a lot during their marriage. So when she goes to this town, she wants to find out more about him. Maybe there are people that still live there that knew him, because he lived there as a child. Well, anyway, as the book progresses, she meets another gentleman in the town. He's actually the local newspaper reporter. And she feels an attraction, and they have something in common, because he's a widower and she's a widow. And they're not very old, but they, during their marriage, she was close, she misses her husband and he misses his wife. He had a very hard time forming another relationship. But they get together. But as time goes on, she discovers his family is connected with hers, with her husband's. And there's some secrets, and I'm not going to give it away.
Of course not.
But there are some secrets, and there's a piece of evidence that ties this, his name is John, ties John to the murder of her husband, because actually she finds out her husband did not die in an accident. It was murder. So this is so and then I've written, following this, I wrote, 2 additional books, and I have the 4th one coming out. So there is a series with the main characters that continues the story.
Okay, where can we see those books?
Oh, well, they're on Amazon.
Do you have a website?
I have a website, DebbieDeLouise.com. I also publish a blog on that website.
And blogs are so important to marketing, yes?
Oh, yes. I love my blog. I have 2 blogs, by the way. I have the blog, which is on my website, debbiedelouise.com, and then I have another WordPress blog for my cat character, Sneaky, and he's the cat, the library cat in the Cobble Cove Mysteries, and he interviews other pet characters. And I've met a lot of
love it.
I started out just cats. Now I interview dogs. I've interviewed I've interviewed all types of animals on the blog. But he interviews them, and I've met a lot of cozy authors that way. And but I also interview authors on my main blog.
Oh, so that's a good way to network with other authors.
Definitely, and because we reciprocate and we have our own audiences, so it's a great way to meet other readers.
Okay, so tell us about
The Cloudy Rainbow?
The Cloudy Rainbow.
Okay. So, Cloudy Rainbow was my very first published book, but I self-published it. And what happened was, I had a cat named Floppy, and I had him for 15 years. He was the first cat that I had after I got married. He passed away. I went through a lot with him. He was diabetic. There were a lot of vet visits and insulin injections and all of that. Now, I know a lot of pet owners have done that for their own pets. After he passed away, I came up with this idea for a book, and I wanted to feature him as a cat in it. I actually, actually, there were scenes in the book that actually happened, but I fictionalized a lot of it. But the book tells the story of a programmer who lives on Long Island named Dulcie. And she, later on, she's not a cat lover. Unlike me, I've had cats all my life. She never had a pet. And she ends up having Floppy, but I'm not going to give away the whole story. But basically, what happens to Dulcie is her fiancé, she's in a car accident, and she's about to marry someone, and he gets killed in the accident.
You really like killing off the men, don't you?
Want
to talk about that?
My husband accuses me, and they all die in car accidents. Well, the first one was a hit and run, and this was a car. But no, they don't. They actually don't. But my husband accuses me. He said, "Am I the man that you kill off?" And he said, "Now I've got to worry." But
that is so funny.
But yeah. Anyway, what happens is Dulcie, after her fiancé dies, she finds herself getting involved in a virtual world where she...
On the computer.
On the computer. I myself at this time had dabbled in Second Life, which is a virtual world, and I met a lot of librarians there. I did it because I was able to be in touch with, connect with librarians from all over the world, and it's really amazing. You talk to people in other countries. It's really, and it was fun. It was something I enjoyed doing for a time, but it takes up time, and I wanted to get back to my writing, but I featured that. I also featured my time at the CW Post newspaper. I was a features editor for several years when I went to CW Post, where I had my where I got my English degree and my library science degree.
So your entire life has been immersed in writing.
It has been.
Yeah.
And ever since I was very young, I mean, my teachers would always said that I should consider writing. They thought I had talent, and I've loved writing. Before I wrote, I used to tell stories.
That's how I started writing. I really like to tell stories.
Yes.
Writing is you have to put the story, but I love to tell stories. I like to make them up.
Yeah. And then as I got older, I went into the short stories, and then I was in a mystery anthology, and I always like to feature pets in my story, though, because I think people like to read about animals, and most people identify with them, and not to make them the main character. Like I know there are cat cozies, but my cat is not the main character, but he might find a clue or lead the main character to a clue. But they also provide some entertainment.
They do.
In the
book.
They do. Like they do in real life. Cats can be very funny.
Yes.
As most cat owners would agree.
And they're also, you say this has a paranormal element to it. I find that, because I have cats too.
Right.
And I've had cats all my life, sometimes dogs. But dogs, don't fit my lifestyle because I'm not home enough. It's
Right.
cruel for the dog
I've
to be
had
home
dogs
alone.
too.
And I find the cats to be very
Intuitive.
in tune to things that
Sensitive.
we don't hear, things that we don't sense
They
or
seem
see.
to have
Yeah.
a special sense, and they know, they're very in tune with you, where if you're not feeling well or
Right.
you're sad, they know how to comfort you,
Yes.
and you
I
can
find that,
my
yeah.
cat knows when I'm going away. You
Oh,
can
yes.
see he becomes depressed, and he's
Before-
mad when you come home.
Before you,
They
before
do
you take
things.
out the suitcase, they already know.
They
I
already know.
No, and God forbid you should take out the continuous feeder.
No. Well, I have someone come in.
I do too.
don't
I
that.
do too, but I still have the
Yeah.
continuous feeder.
But the paranormal element in Cloudy Rainbow was the clairvoyant, and there's something in there where there's a virtual seance, and it ties the paranormal in with technology. So I thought it was a
No,
little,
that's a great combination.
because of the virtual
That's a great
world.
I hope this is going to be a bestseller
Thank you.
based on that. So tell me, how has being a librarian helped you with your writing career?